Joiner. Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Um, Welcome. We're so glad that you joined us, whether you are watching us via Facebook or via Zoom or via YouTube. We are so pleased that you are with us tonight. We will be discussing a topic that is so vitally important to us. Our topic tonight is going to be heart sense, a conversation around research, heart murmurs, and heart health. This is a production of the National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated. We are representing the Hope Health Ministry. We do want to acknowledge our convention leadership. Dr. Jerry Young is our president. Dr. Alvin Edwards, our general secretary. Dr. Alvin Love, our chair of the Federal Faith-Based Development Initiative, and Dr. Michael O. Miner, National Director of the NBC USA Liaison to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So glad that you joined us tonight. We're excited to learn more about heart health and how we can better understand murmurs and other issues that impact our heart. We also want to acknowledge the All of Us research program. You see on the screen, www.joinallofus.org/together. And that is an initiative of the National Institutes of Health, Precision Medicine. The idea is to find 1 million people to help us have a better health future, better health outcomes across the board. Particularly in our denomination, we are asking all of our churches to get as involved as possible and to encourage congregants to participate in this particular research program so that future generations can live healthier lives and not be plagued by the health disparities that we so often find in our communities. Again, welcome. I want to introduce to you our host, our moderator for tonight, is a member of our HOPE team. And I think once you hear her speaking and once you hear her bio, you will know why we selected this wonderful lady as our host, as our moderator, Sister Nettie Johnson. And Nettie is an author, a podcaster, and she is a credentialed health educator and founder of Education for Transformation, a wellness organization that develops and delivers curated education and programming addressing African American health disparities, science-based, faith-empowered solutions for healthy weight management is Nettie's area of passion and specialty. A Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Culture of Health leader, Nettie also holds multiple fitness and health coaching certifications. She is a member of the Society for Public Health Education and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Nettie also serves, as I mentioned a moment ago, as a member of our NBC USA HOPE team, and she is a health ambassador trainer, and she is our National Physical Fitness Coordinator for HOPE. We want to go ahead and give her an opportunity to speak, and I know that she will introduce the rest of our panel. It's in your hands, Sister Johnson. Can't hear you, Nettie. Nettie, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was trying to read lips. It just wasn't working.
I do appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this really important conversation about an aspect of heart health. It is an honor to share about this, particularly since heart health is such a prevalent condition across the United States. The leading cause, heart disease is the leading cause of death and disability. And the more that we know better, then we can do better so that we can live better. So it's truly an honor just to have this distinguished panel here to discuss elements around this condition. I'm going to start off first by introducing our speaker for today, who's going to be doing the main element of our training. And I also would like to acknowledge Dr. Michael Miner. Is Dr. Miner on, Sister Miner?
He is.
Okay.
Moving around, I was going to spotlight him. Let me add spotlight here.
Michael Miner.
Okay, so he didn't want to be spotlighted. I'm sorry.
He didn't want to be spotlighted. Okay. Well, we'll be talking to him in a bit to talk a little bit more about the All of Us Research Project. Dr. Michael Miner is our fearless and very focused and dedicated lead of the National Baptist Convention HOPE Health Ministry. He co-founded this ministry more than a decade ago and has been very instrumental in bringing health education about conditions that do affect our communities to over 10,000 churches across this United States. We are very honored to share with Dr. Miner and to have him to be a leader of this ministry, and we do look forward to hearing more about him. We're going to come back to you, Dr. Miner, and I would love to have you to share a little bit more about precision medicine and how this impacts what we're talking about today in the Heart Sense webinar. We also want to introduce the other speaker that will be sharing with us today, and this is Dr. Keller. Dr. Keller is a cardiovascular, thoracic, and endovascular surgeon, a native of Louisiana. He spent a good part of his early childhood living and being educated in East Africa. And he did complete his education in California, undergraduate studies at the University of California and Duke University School of Medicine, where he graduated with honors. He completed his residency at the Carolinas Heart Institute in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's a board certified cardiovascular thoracic surgery. He has co-authored more than 40 scholarly publications and presentations. His interests include valvular heart disease, minimally invasive valve surgery, and endovascular surgery for aortic aneurysms. Can I say that 3 times fast? I don't think so.
That's a very good job, Nettie.
He's a devoted father and family man and has had an interest for quite some time in reaching out to the community, to the children in the community, in an effort to show them that the world is a much better and bigger place than what they see every day. That is so inspiring. He's been involved in the Boys and Girls Clubs of America and other youth organizations. And recently, he connected with another member of the H.O.P.E ministry, Ellen McKnight, to do some outreach about this important topic of heart murmurs, particularly in our community. So we're so glad to have you here, Dr. Keller. Welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you in a bit, and you can educate us about this this sign that can be very helpful for our health. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Nettie. And Dr. Miner and everybody else, I really believe in the power of faith-based ministry in community health. So I really appreciate you having me on today.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Miner, and we're going to come to you first. And I would like for you to share a little bit more about, for those who have been attending these webinars for a while, they're used to seeing your smile and hearing your voice. And I would like for them to hear a little bit more from you. If you can share a little bit more about what you are proud or just thankful that God has been able to accomplish through some of the work that you've been directing with the H.O.P.E ministry. I'd like to hear you share some of the highlights of what God has been doing through H.O.P.E under your leadership, sir.
All right. I hope that everybody can hear me just fine. We are, my wife and I are sharing one mic, but we're at two different stations. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, look, we're happy, glad to have everybody here to be a part of our session on this evening. The H.O.P.E Health Ministry, it's been a decade of service. We started now going into our 11th year. And we've conducted many different initiatives, and our primary area of support has been for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We began by helping them with the Affordable Care Act. We've done some additional things with some of their efforts around vaccination. Who do we know that now we were now working with them on vaccination again? And we want to share a little bit tonight about our newest initiative with the National Institutes of Health, our All of Us Research Program. But I would ask everyone to learn, that want to learn more about what we're doing, to go to our website, hopenbc.com, and you'll find a whole host of information about what we're doing. And before I forget, look, we'd like for you to be a part of what we're doing. Why don't you email us, info@hopenbc.com, and join over 500 certified health ambassadors across the country as we're doing our best to make sure that in each one of our more than 30,000 churches for the National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated, will have at least one trained health ambassador. All right, now look, let me quit being a Baptist preacher and get to what I'm told to do. Talk a little bit about our newest initiative of the National Institutes of Health. Well, look, let me give you a little bit about the National Institutes of Health. It's part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and it has it is considered the nation's medical research agency. It's been making important discoveries that improve our health and help save lives. NIH, that's the abbreviations for the National Institutes of Health, is made up of 27 different components called institutes and centers. Each has its own specific research agenda. It often focuses on a particular disease or body system. All but 3 of these components receive their funding directly from Congress and administrate their own budgets. If you want to find out more about the National Institutes of Health, go to nih.gov. All right, what is precision medicine? That's the link between NIH and All of Us Research Program. Well, precision medicine is healthcare that is based on you as an individual. For instance, I wear glasses when I drive, but I don't wear them during the rest of the day. My wife wears glasses all day long. Guess what? If we switch glasses, both of us would be in trouble. So one thing about precision medicine is how can it takes into account factors like where we live, where we work, what we do, and family health history to make it exactly or as close as possible to fit our particular needs, specific needs. The goal is to be able to tell people the best way to stay healthy. It's opposite of the idea of what keeps us, once we get sick, how do we get healthy? It's about letting us stay healthy to begin with. If someone does get sick, precision medicine may help healthcare teens find the treatment that will work best. We want to find ways to make us healthier in the long run, to live longer for both cues, quantity and quality of life. Now, for the main point I want to talk about is the All of Us Research Program. The All of Us Research Program is a large research program, the largest ever of its type. The goal is to help researchers understand more about why people get sick or stay healthy. Now, people who join this initiative, it's a good thing because they're going to share information. And I've joined, I'm part of it. I've become all of us part of it about the health, the habits, and what it is like where they live. By looking for patterns, researchers may learn more about what affects people's health. And for the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated, we're making a special emphasis on sickle cell. We know sickle cell disease is primarily for Black people, a disease that affects Black people. And until this date, we still have just have not found a cure for it. But we're fortunate that there is a number of people who have been enrolled and become part of the All of Us Research Program who have sickle cell or the sickle cell trait. Our hope, our prayer is that this will become part of the process where we will be able to find a cure for sickle cell disease. And it's a lot more to the All of Us Research Program. And we want you to look behind Sister Mina's head when she comes back up again, and she'll show you the address, the web address, and I'll say it for you. It's all of us. It's excuse me. You will find it there. joinallofus.org/together. joinallofus.org/together. All right. And you can be able to be a part of this. But we want you to join. We want you to visit it, the website, and become part of it. Look, we want to be part of the biggest health initiative in this United States. joinallofus.org/together. All you got to do is go to the website. They're going to do a little video. They're going to ask you some questions, and you can be a part of this. And I'm real hopeful, because I'm also interested in tonight's discussion, because in our family, many of the men in our family have heart murmurs. It's just a trait that goes down. It's hereditary in my family. So I'm glad, because I'm in this All of Us Research Program, that they're able to find more reasons why this is the case. And also, years ago, I suffered from ulcerative colitis. So these are just two things that I will add to the pool as we're doing this research. We certainly hope that you'll go and learn more about the All of Us Research Program. We certainly hope that you'll go in and join the All of Us Research Program. And we certainly hope that you will participate by being an active recipient of the information that they share. And I just want to pause right now before I end. And I want to thank our president of our National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated, Dr. Jerry Young, for allowing me to serve in this position, and thank him for his leadership. All right, everybody, we thank you for bearing with us, and hopefully you learned something about the initiative. If not, email us at info@hopenbc.com, and we'll be happy to share more information. God bless you tonight. Back to you, Sister Nettie.
Thank you, Dr. Miner, for such an informative and encouraging explanation of all of us. And it really does come, what I heard you saying is that it really comes down to information, giving us information that can help lead to solutions. And you mentioned specifically sickle cell. That's a disease that disproportionately affects African Americans, and there is not a lot of information, research. There's not been a lot of study around that, and hence we've not had some of the advances in this particular disease that could be possible if more information, resources, et cetera, were devoted to that. And it brings my mind back to even with these heart issues that we're talking about today. You mentioned that heart murmurs are kind of prevalent in your family. We see even disparities there. For example, because people present differently and things will appear different in different types of people. The way a heart attack presents for a woman is different for a man. And so because so much research and treatment was devoted towards men, we see disparities with women in heart disease. And so one of the things that I love that you pointed out, Dr. Miner, is that this information, we can be part of a solution by providing information that can help us not only to have precise treatments that zero in to not only treat disease, but also to give us information that can be helpful in the prevention. Bible tells us that people perish for lack of knowledge. Now, information is very important. And what we're going to dig into today with heart murmurs, I tend to think that a heart murmur it's a sign. It's a sign, and it can give us some information that can guide to needed interventions if they are needed. So again, Dr. Miner, thank you so much. We do want to encourage, I too am a member of all of us research, and we want to encourage you all, if you are not, to at least take a look at it. Go to joinallofus.org/together. Take a look at that and decide if you want to be one of the millions. They're looking for 1 million people, a representative segment of the diversity of this nation to be a part of this precision medicine initiative. So thank you again, Dr. Miner. Dr. Keller, we're going to come on over to you, and we are ready. Now, I encourage whenever we have webinars or opportunities to come together, and I know that COVID has afforded most individuals with an opportunity to have more learning in front of them than we probably have had in 4 to 5 years. I don't know if you all are the same way. I have
Absolutely.
good webinars, right? One of the things that I want to encourage those that are watching, whether you're on the webinar or if you're watching this on Facebook Live, or if you're watching it in a replay, if you are someplace where this is safe, I encourage you to just take a simple piece of paper, just a blank piece of paper, just that. And I would love for you to draw a line down the middle, and on one side, just write TA. TA. If I was in church, I would say somebody say TA, right? But we'll repeat it back to me. TA stands for takeaways. As Dr. Keller begins to share with us, and even some things that Dr. Miner has already shared, hopefully the All of Us Research website. When things are said that just sound interesting to you or new to you, or if they just pique your interest in some way, shape, form, or fashion, it does for a reason. And I'm going to encourage you to jot it down. Jot down just something that is said under that TA. That stands for takeaway. And we're going to do something at the end really quickly. Why do we do that? Because of the law of forgetting. Even when you're hearing really great information, whether you're in a webinar, you're listening to a sermon or whatever, studies show that by the end of the day, we will forget 50% of it. And by the next day, we will remember only 30%. So as this really helpful information is coming, we're not saying that you want to necessarily remember everything, but just the act of writing things down can take this knowledge and make it be more firm. And then at the end of this webinar, we're going to share some ways that you can just take this head knowledge and actually make it actionable so that we can take better care of our hearts and our health. So if you're where you can, you have opportunity. I hope you have a piece of paper with TA on one side. I have mine, and I'm ready to learn from Dr. Keller as we dig into this subject of heart health. So Dr. Keller, to start off with, can you just share a little bit about why we should be concerned about our hearts, like why we should think about it? It beats and beats and beats. And I think that we often don't think about all of the work that the heart does and how it keeps us living. And what exactly is a heart murmur? If we can just kind of kick it off with that basic foundation. So.
Thank you again for having me come, Nettie. I really appreciate you and all of the work that you all are doing to try to help educate people about their fitness and their wellness. And I know it may seem strange that a cardiac surgeon would be focused on wellness and trying to keep people from having to have cardiac surgery, but it is an obligation I feel that we have to our community to be able to try to do the best we can to help people live happier, healthier lives and not have to come to see me eventually for their heart. Now, you asked 2 questions, one about heart murmurs. I'm going to save that one for last, but why should we be worried about our heart and about heart wellness and heart health, as it were? Well, many times I will give lectures to people about heart disease, and before I became a heart surgeon, I was a general surgeon, and we dealt a lot with people who had cancer, all different types of cancer. So for many times when I give talks, I ask people, if you had to have something, if you had to get sick with something, would you rather get sick with cancer or with heart disease? And invariably, people will say they would rather have heart disease because they don't want the big C. But then I let them know that heart disease kills more people than all types of cancer combined every year. And that makes them have some pause and think about perhaps they should be more conscientious about their heart and their heart health. We know that hypertension and obesity and diabetes and familial aspects of heart disease are very prevalent in our society, especially in the African American community and other minority communities. Yet and still, many people don't take their blood pressure medicine every day, and they don't take their diabetes medicine like they should, and they overeat and don't exercise as much as they should. So all of these things add up. And what I usually tell my patients is every day that you misbehave and don't do those things that your doctor asks you to do, that could potentially take a day off the end of your life. So you should think about it that way and be a little bit more conscientious about trying to do your best to control those risk factors that we have developed very wonderful pharmacology and technology to be able to help you with. There are some things that you can't control. We call these things non-modifiable risk factors. You can't choose your parents. Your genes are your genes. So you have to do the best you can with the genes you have, at least at this point in time. You can't choose your sex or your age. So those things we pretty much have to put on the back burner and focus on the things that we can control, like taking your blood pressure medicine. Most people don't realize that African Americans have a much higher rate of uncontrolled hypertension than non-African Americans. And they also, once they are found to have hypertension, are much less likely to have treatment or adequate treatment for their hypertension. All of these things in this day and age are controllable for the most part. And we should do our best to try to educate our communities about how important it is to make sure that you pay daily attention to these things and optimize them as best you can. So we move on to heart murmurs. Heart murmurs are sometimes congenital, but one of the most important things for people to realize is that as people get older, they're more likely to develop heart murmurs that they did not have at birth or as they were growing up. Now, there are certain types of heart murmurs that adults can have that are genetically predetermined. One of the problems we have now is called bicuspid aortic valve. When the aortic valve is the heart that sits on top of your heart, and it keeps all of the blood moving in one direction when your heart pumps the blood to the rest of your body. Usually that valve has 3 cusps, but sometimes people can be congenitally predisposed to having 2 cusps. And this leads to a degeneration of that heart valve at a very early age. And so these people who have been found to have bicuspid aortic valve should inform their kids and their parents that they could potentially have early structural degeneration of their heart valve, which could potentially lead to other problems. Heart murmurs, especially heart murmurs that develop later in age in life, actually are much more severe in adults because of the fact that they tend to get worse and worse and worse over time. They don't necessarily stay the same or get better on their own. The good news is that if you get treatment for this heart valve problem before your heart develops irreversible damage, then you can go on and live a long, happy life just as if you'd never had that problem at all. The key point is to have somebody check you every year, make sure you have a physical, and if someone's ever been told they have a heart murmur, they should go to a healthcare professional that is well-versed in taking care of people with heart murmurs. One of the most interesting things about the development of heart murmurs later in life is that the population is getting older. So as you can imagine, the baby boomers who were born at the end of World War II, is a very large segment of our population. And these people are now entering their 60s and 70s. Well, aortic stenosis, which is one of the most common forms of valvular heart disease that leads to a heart murmur, is a blockage in that aortic valve that keeps the blood moving in one direction. The problem with this is people are usually born with an aortic valve that ends up being about the size of a quarter. And when they develop aortic stenosis, it becomes about the size of a dime. And the same amount of blood has to leave the heart and go to the rest of the body through that little dime-sized hole as it used to through the quarter-sized hole. And over time, your heart will wear out. We call this heart failure, not because your heart stops, but because your heart gets weaker and weaker and weaker because it has to pump more blood through this very small hole. And over time, it will wear out. So we want to keep this from happening. So in order to be able to understand when someone is at risk for developing a problem that will be irreversible, we do a couple of examinations. One is an auscultation, which we listen to your heart with a stethoscope. If you listen to the heart of someone who has a murmur with a stethoscope, it sounds like a whooshing sound. And it actually sounds different from the lub-dub that we usually hear, and it goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And the reason it makes that sound is all those little blood components and blood cells inside your blood are banging up against each other when they try to fit through that little hole that makes a sound. And this is what we call a heart murmur. And there are people who have heart murmurs that are what we call benign heart murmurs, which means that they just happen because of the fact that the blood is traveling through that aortic valve at such a high rate of speed. But there are many heart murmurs that develop later in life that are not benign, and they need attention. I remember having a patient come to me. She was a middle-aged lady in her 60s, and she just hadn't been able to do the kinds of things that she liked to do, which brings to mind what symptoms or warning signs that you should look out for if you feel that you have a heart murmur that needs attention. And usually when people have a heart murmur that needs attention, they tend to feel sluggish or tired. Sometimes they will have chest pain, but not always. Sometimes they will have blackout spells. We call that syncope. And sometimes they just have trouble breathing. They can't walk as far as they used to, or they have trouble climbing stairs and so forth. All of these things can be present with heart murmurs, but don't necessarily have to be present. One of the things that is remarkable is that people usually at rest will not have any problems. So they'll go to the doctor and the doctor will ask them if they have chest pain or shortness of breath or if they have blackout spells. And they will say, oh, no, not really. I don't usually have that. And this is how this young lady that I was referring to earlier came to me. I said, well, do you mow your lawn every day? Because people here in Southern Louisiana are very proud of their lawns. And oftentimes it's the ladies who take care of the yard. So I asked her if she had trouble mowing her yard and if she has chest pain or shortness of breath when she does that. And she says, oh, no. I'm like, are you sure? And she said, yeah, ever since I bought that riding mower, I don't have chest pain when I mow my lawn anymore. So it is illustrative of the point that sometimes people will modify their lifestyles to accommodate their symptoms. They will not feel bad when they're not doing anything strenuous, but when they do, they have these problems. And so they modify their lifestyles and try to find a way not to have that feeling anymore. This is particularly dangerous because one of the most dreaded complications of aortic stenosis is sudden cardiac death, which means that you are doing just fine, but you try to run after your grandkids, or you try to carry some groceries in from the garage, and then you fall out and it's all over. So we want to keep that from happening. One of the interesting things about the population, as the population is getting older, is that African-American people, there are more of them who are getting older than most other subgroups, minority groups, or socioeconomic classes. And one of the points that I would like to make is that by the year of 2050, 20% of the African-American population will be over age 60. This means that 1 out of every 5 people will be over the age of 60 in America. And this is particularly worrisome considering the fact that this development of these heart murmurs and heart valve disease happens to people as they get older. One of the articles that we have helped to write recently in the US News and World Report indicated that African-American patients actually have a much higher incidence of valvular heart disease and of untreated and undiagnosed valvular heart disease. And when they have to have intervention for their heart valve disease, they get intervention at a much lower rate than non-minority patients do. This is a glaring problem of disparity, and it is one that's not going to go away until we educate people in our community about what to look out for and what to be aware of, and how important it is to go to the doctor, to someone who actually has experience taking care of these problems. We're going to continue to have this disparity. So it's something that we are really passionate about. And one of the initiatives that we have begun is called the HeartSense Heart Murmur Disparities Project. And you can find information about it on our website at www.heart-sense.org. And the important part about our project is that we deliver technology to people who would not normally have access to this technology. We have a digital stethoscope with artificial intelligence, and we have a point of care echocardiogram probe that can actually plug into an iPhone. It's portable. We can take it anywhere. We go to faith-based organizations. We go to civic centers and community centers and places where people might not normally end up going to the doctor every day or every year. And we identify people who have risk for having heart murmurs that need to be intervened upon before they develop a problem that lands them in the hospital or gives them irreversible heart failure. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes to do the examination. We go to the assisted living facility or the church, and we listen to people's hearts for heart murmurs. And we have uncovered about twice as many heart murmurs as we expected to in communities in which patients have a very low likelihood of going to the doctor every year. And so we feel that it is a valuable initiative and one that should be incorporated into a wellness screening, just like a screening for hypertension or dyslipidemia or many other chronic conditions that are running rampant in our community these days. One of the things that I think is particularly important is to understand the cultural significance of physicians and the fact that while African-American patients, for instance, make up about 15% of our population, only 3% of the physicians in the community are African-American. We know that people who have a heart disease sometimes have barriers to access to getting the care that they deserve. For instance, cultural sensitivity is eminently important in this. If someone has to travel miles and miles to get to the doctor, they have to take a whole day off work. Sometimes they live on a fixed income, or they have problems caring for their children on the income that they have, and they need to work every single day. Sometimes they won't go to the doctor because they just don't want to take a whole day off from work and go and sit in the doctor's office for the entire day. Sometimes they have transportation issues and they can't get to the doctor. Sometimes they don't have childcare for their children to be able to sit with their children, especially now in the age of the pandemic, and they can't get to the doctor because they don't have anyone to watch their kids. In Baton Rouge, we have gained some notoriety, albeit in a horrible way with the COVID pandemic, in an NPR report that was recently illustrative of the fact that we have COVID diagnosis and treatment centers that are very prevalent on the south side of town, but not so prevalent on the north side of town where a lot of minority patients live. So these barriers exist not only in COVID, but they exist in cardiovascular disease in general. So it's really important to have some cultural sensitivity and understanding about systemic disparities and the impact of systemic issues on healthcare disparities and access to healthcare. It is a point that cannot be overemphasized because it is one that until we fix it or make an effort to fix it, we're going to continue to see these glaring disparities in healthcare.
You mentioned a lot of things. Can I just ask a question to have you to double back on something that one of the many things that I found extremely impactful? You mentioned attention signs of sluggish behavior, possibly may or may not have chest pain, blackouts, or trouble breathing. Now, with the exception of blackouts, I would believe that like feeling sluggish, having trouble breathing, sometimes some of these things are things that I honestly do believe probably a lot of people live with every day. And they may just attribute it to something that, oh, well, I'm just feeling tired. And you mentioned the cultural aspect as it relates to health. And I honestly believe that when a group of people have been denied access, have been denied the ability to fully have wellness as a group of people for so long, we tend to normalize the abnormal. And I believe that there are sometimes we get to a place where we've not felt good for so long that we don't know that we don't feel good anymore. So there's this double challenge here, in that some of the things that could be symptoms, we may notice and just put it off to something else, or we may not even notice it at all. So I think that that is so impactful what you said, that we need to have this checked, and you said on at least an annual basis.
Yes, ma'am. You know, you're so right in your insistence that we pay attention to our bodies, and if we sometimes the changes are very small and they're imperceptible, and we just put them off to just getting older. But these are issues that are not necessarily because you're just getting older. It may be because you have a problem with your heart. And one of the most important things is that you have an annual physical and that somebody listens to your heart. Because most of these things, as I mentioned earlier, are reversible if you get therapy in a timely fashion. You don't have to develop heart failure that is irreversible if you just understand that you have a problem. Most of the issue that we have is that people are undiagnosed, which means that they may have been told they had a heart murmur at some point in time, but didn't go to someone who has any experience with heart murmurs. They just said that it's a normal murmur and they will be okay. Well, oftentimes they're not okay. And a significant proportion of those people need to see a cardiovascular professional.
Okay, that was the next question. As we're advocating for our health, you mentioned the importance of early detection, and we hear that trigger often as it relates to cancer. And again, I think a fact that you shared very early on in your teaching is that heart disease kills more people than all cancers combined. So sometimes we have this focus on this one disease and not necessarily on another, and early detection is so important. So will the average doctor, if I'm going into my PCP and they put the stethoscope on me and they're listening, is the typical PCP qualified to hear a heart murmur, or should we be going for these special detection services that you mentioned that you all are so phenomenally bringing into our communities with the HeartSense program?
Yeah, most physicians are perfectly able to diagnose people with a heart murmur.
Okay.
even primary care doctors and family physicians and nurse practitioners and other kinds of practitioners, if they take the time to listen to the heart in a quiet environment, then they should be able to detect a heart murmur. If anyone is told that they have a heart murmur, they should be going to a cardiovascular professional, a cardiologist, for instance, to be able to have some close follow-up, because oftentimes we've found that people who have heart murmurs develop irreversible signs and symptoms and heart failure between times that they go to the doctor every year. So it's really important to have someone put some sort of an objective determination of why they have a heart murmur down on paper so that you can gauge if it's getting worse over time. And that's best done in a cardiologist's office for sure.
Okay, so we do definitely have to do that next step to follow up and advocate for our health a little bit more. Dr. Keller, can you speak to the fear factor?
Yes.
There are, in doing wellness work in our community, very often we may hear, you know, I don't want to know, or the fact that the lack of knowledge is just a place of more comfort than knowing something. And I love that you said that oftentimes these conditions are reversible. But can you speak to that aspect of fear? It is not of God. We know that as people of faith, but it is real in that sometimes it does impact the actions that we take to own our health. Can you speak to that, sir?
Yes. So I saw a meme recently, and forgive me for bringing up memes during our conversation, but it said, if you don't take care of your wellness, you will be forced to take care of your illness. And so it speaks to the point that it may be worrisome to you if you think you might have something wrong. But the longer you wait to have something done about that something wrong, the more likely you are to have a poor outcome or even die from having the problem, because you have done irreversible damage by just waiting too long. So early intervention, as you mentioned, is eminently important. And wellness is something that is seems to be a relatively new concept in the news, but it's not a new concept for doctors who are concerned about chronic disease. And so having focused attention to living a good life every single day is really important for people. You know, one of the most difficult things to reconcile in communities where there's a lot of poverty, like there is in Southern Louisiana, where some of the parishes, more than 50% of the households live below the poverty line, is the notion of food insecurity. When people have to travel miles and miles to have healthy food choices, and consequently they can't, so they don't, and they eat things that are going to promote a chronic disease or accelerate chronic disease. And the fear of not being able to eat or not being able to feed their families is actually something that prevents them from taking an extra step or taking an extra bus ride or cab ride or car ride to be able to get healthy food choices. And until we can understand this in our communities and give our communities that have relatively low socioeconomic status and minority communities healthy food choices, then we're going to continue to have problems with chronic disease, obesity, and diabetes, and so forth. So food insecurity is a really big problem that you might have heard a lot about recently in the news. And there are some initiatives in our community that are aimed at alleviating this problem, but not nearly enough.
And one of the HOPE team members that I know you are, she actually is responsible for making this connection, Sister Ellen McKnight. She is a champion access to healthy foods and doing just great things. And we need more of this, as you said, across the nation. Dr. Keller, we're getting some questions in the chat, and if we can take those, and some of them relate to other things that we can do to improve our wellness that can connect to heart health. You already mentioned food. There are two others. We have a question: how important is water to heart health? And the second, how does 10 to 15 minutes of physical activity make a difference with our heart health? So we're talking about water kind of in our input, and then activity.
So water is really good for you if you're healthy. Certainly in climates like we have in Louisiana, it's important to stay well hydrated, and you should drink at least 8 glasses of water every day. And that's not in the form of Diet Coke or Dr. Pepper or other carbonated kinds of beverages, because these beverages are very high in phosphoric acid and it takes all the minerals out of your system. So water is the best thing, or iced tea sometimes if you have to have some flavor to it. But for the most part, try to stay away from carbonated beverages. Now, the caveat to that is if you have heart failure or your heart is not functioning as well as it should, then you have to be really careful about your fluid intake. And sometimes people will be on a fluid pill called the diuretic, especially if they have high blood pressure in the African-American community. So it's one thing that I think that it's important for you to check with your doctor about when you have too much water or too much fluid. It can be harmful to you, especially if you already have pre-existing heart disease. But it's certainly important to stay well hydrated nonetheless. And what was your second question?
Exercise, 10 to 15.
Oh, exercise. Yes. So every little bit helps. Even if you only have 10 or 15 minutes to be able to exercise, it helps. But the American Heart Association has some very interesting information on their website, and I encourage you to check it out. AHA.org, I believe, is the website. And one of the things that they have found over the years is that if you want cardiovascular fitness, then you should exercise at least 30 minutes every day. It used to be 3 times a week, and then they moved it to 5 times a week. And now they figure that it's a lifestyle modification or a behavior modification. So you should aim to have it every day, even on Sunday. And if you want weight control, it's important to have 60 minutes a day of cardiovascular fitness. Now, this doesn't mean going out and running a mile. It can just be as simple as walking, but you have to try to get your heart rate up a little bit. So you will know when your heart starts beating a little bit faster. And we like for it to be about 75% of your maximum heart rate, which for most people in their 40s and 50s or 60s would be somewhere in the 120 range, between 100 beats per minute and 120 beats per minute. So every little bit helps, but the more the better.
That's excellent. And, you know, when we hear that, we talk a lot about, with the Let's Move National Baptist, we talk a lot about moving for our health and encouraging people to be active every day. And when you say 30 minutes or an hour for weight loss and weight maintenance, which again has so many connections when we have overweight or the condition of obesity, it ties into heart health and so many other conditions. Sometimes that can seem a bit daunting, but if you think about it, 30 minutes is 2% of our day. It's only 2%. An hour is 4% of an entire day. And when we can take that time to do something that is going to benefit our bodies in so many ways, it's definitely a really great investment. As we get ready to close, if we have any additional questions, you all please do put them in the chat. I would like to kind of connect to an upcoming event. This particular webinar is being viewed by people all across the nation, not only in the Zoom meeting, but also on Facebook as well. But we do have an upcoming event that is here local in Baton Rouge that we would definitely like to highlight. And this is an example of one of the outreaches that your organization is doing, where you're bringing screenings into the community. Before, I'll pull up on the screen a flyer for the event at New Hope Baptist Church, but you had one at Shiloh a couple of weeks ago. Can you share a little bit about what this church, faith-based, housed in a church, Heart Murmur screenings, how it worked, and what you found at this particular one that you had at Shiloh?
Yeah, we really are indebted to Ellen McKnight and Reverend Jennifer Jones at the Shiloh Baptist Church, because they allowed us to come into their church and to help people over the age of 60 try to understand whether they had heart murmurs or not. We found that it was very well received. We found that there was a lot of action and a lot of desire in the faith-based community to be able to come and try to give people some peace of mind, to let them know that they don't have to worry about heart murmurs, or the ones that did end up having heart murmurs, whether they should go to see a doctor about it or not. So really is a very important part of our mission, because these faith-based leaders and community leaders really do have the best interest of the community at heart. We don't charge anything. We don't take identification or insurance or anything like that. And it really does fall in line with the mission of your organizations, trying to lift up the health of the community just because it's the right thing to do. So I really appreciate your invitation to come to New Hope, and I'm looking forward to it, as well as all of our team members are really looking forward to it too. Courtney Luster is one of our most ardent supporters, and I'm sure you know her and have worked with her before. She's really fantastic, and I saw Bianca is on this particular webcast too, so shout out to you, Bianca. I think I'll be seeing you later on this week.
Yeah, we're very excited. Bianca Plant is the lead of the health ministry at New Hope Baptist Church. That's my home church. Yay. So we're very excited to have you to come out. The information is on the screen. It is Saturday, July 11th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the New Hope Baptist Church. Across the street, it'll be in the Educational Center at 5925 Greenwell Springs Road. And we'll be sure to post this flyer on this particular event. I'm sure it's shared over at New Hope's website. You can find it on Hope NBC website as well. But this is an example of how we can take this information and these resources, and we can connect resources with individuals that need the services. This is, this is handling some of the access issues that we do often have. And so we're thankful for the opportunity. And we raise this, if you're not in the Baton Rouge area, and if you have other health ambassadors from across the nation, this is an example of, one of the many things. The church is a hub of health and healing and hope. Not just spiritually, but it can also be for, we are triune beings, and our goal is to make sure that this is holistic wellness. And I love that you said that at Shiloh, one of the things that people got was peace of mind. Like, this information can give you some peace of mind. So I think that that is absolutely fantastic. I'm checking to see if there are any additional questions in the chat as we're coming up on the round about the hour, and I want to be mindful of the time. But as we get ready to close, and Dr. Keller and maybe Dr. Miner, if you have any, I'll come to you for some closing comments, and then I have a call or a request for those that are on the webinar. Let's see. Dr. Keller, do you have any closing comments as I check for additional questions, sir?
Yes. I would like for you to let everybody know that it is really important for you to pay attention to your heart health. Wellness is a very significant thing, and every day that you don't behave, you're going to take a day off the end of your life. So please go get checked. Come to one of our screenings if you want to volunteer for one of our screenings to help us. We are always in need of volunteers and people to come and spread the word about what we're doing. So thank you again for inviting me to come. And if anyone has any questions, I will send my email to you, and you can ask them to send me a direct email, and we'll do our best to accommodate them.
Fantastic, fantastic. Dr. Miner, do you have any additional comments that you would like to add, sir?
Wow, I just want to say that Dr. Keller, yeah, okay, I'll make sure I was on. You really, wow, I really appreciate the information that you share, especially since I'm a person that suffers from a heart murmur. And I certainly encourage all the men, this is Men's Health Month, to go get checked out. And I want you all that are listening to and to watch this to keep me lifted up in prayer. I've been balancing health issues and whatnot. It slowed me down, but you can't tell it because we have such a wonderful team behind the scenes to make everything work. So do that with you. All those people that are saved and sanctified, make sure you get that correct. Lift me up in your prayers. We do want to just give a shout out to Sister Ellen McKnight for being behind the scenes to put this together. All we had to do was kind of follow the template, and we were able to make it go. So thank you, Sister Ellen, for your hard work. We do want to remind everyone about June 17th, June 17th, June 17th. What did I say? June 17th. The Southwest region, we're having the kickoff for our Turn Obesity Around webinar on June 17th. It'll be at 7 p.m. We're going to have some of the same folks because the Southwest region includes Louisiana. So that's Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas. We're going to have a special session there about our Turn Obesity Around effort that is sponsored by Novo Nordisk. And then, of course, we will want to remind everyone about June 21st to 25th. It's our virtual National Baptist Congress, and we will be having our H.O.P.E Health Ministry training courses. We're going to offer all three courses: the Health Ambassador, the Health Promoter, and the Congregational Health Leader. We'd like for you to sign up so we can get an idea about the number of people that we'll be having. And you can email us at info@hopenbc.com and find out more information about that. You also go to our Facebook page and the events and get that done. But again, Sister Nettie, Dr. Keller, Sister Minor, you guys rock.
God bless
That's
you.
all I got.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Dr. Minor. As we get ready to close the webinar on the social media page, we will, as we typically do with our webinars, stick on to Zoom for a little bit longer to have address any questions or to connect with individuals that are sharing with us here directly. There was a question about, do you have to be a member of New Hope to come to that screening event? The answer is no, I'm correct. This is open to the public. We definitely want the public to come, correct, Dr. Keller?
Yes, ma'am. We have a limited number of spaces though, so be sure to register either on our website or by texting the word HEART to 225-334-8802.
That number
Say
one
that again, Dr. Keller.
225-334-8802.
All righty. So
Text the word HEART.
we'll put that in the chat. We'll take care of that. And as we get ready to close off on social media, here is the request. Look at my page of notes. I don't know if y'all can see that. I have a page full of takeaways. And if you were listening, there were some things I'm sure that touched your heart, about how you can take better care of it. So I asked you to label that TA. The thing that I'd like for us all to do right now is to prayerfully consider the list and then circle one item and write next to that PA. PA stands for practical application. Because, you know, knowledge is a wonderful thing, but where we really have growth, where we really have movement, where we can really take strides in our wellness is when we take stuff that we know and we move it into action, things that we can do. You know, we pray to God, He gives us the strength, He gives us resources, He gives us opportunity, He opens doors. We have to take the steps. And so pick one thing that you can do, and it may be coming to this event, it may be making sure that you go to your next doctor's appointment, it may be going to heart-sense.org and reading up on that. Just one thing that you can do to improve your health and then take action. So again, thank you so much, everybody, for coming and sharing in this event. Dr. Keller, Sister Ellen, Sister Minor, Dr. Minor, thank you all for sharing. We're going to be closing off of the Facebook page. You all take care. God bless, be well, and we hope to see you again here on the Hope NBC webinars on June 17th for our next Turn Obesity Around webinar. God bless, and we'll see you soon.